Well, total capital expenditure for the LNG project pipeline and management reserve is 17.5 billion. Woodside is targeting first LNG in 2029. This is a huge win for the Trump administration.
Yeah, it really is. It's also a big win for Turley, who was the previous developer of the Woodside, Louisiana LNG project, which used to be named the Driftwood LNG project until it was purchased by Woodside. And the CEO of Turley dumped his whole pay package back into this project. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Thursday, May 15th, 2025 edition of the Daily Energy Newsbeat Stand-Up. Here are today's top headlines. First up, Saudi Aramco plans to join Woodside's LNG project. Very interesting story. Next up, EU sanctions target nearly 200 Russian-linked ships. Next up, Washington issues further sanctions aimed at Iran's trade with China. Very interesting. Next up, make coal great again. Peak coal and energy security dominate discussion at Geneva Convention. Finally, according to a CEO, Venture Global to sign multiple 20-year LNG contracts in the coming quarters. Stu will then toss it over to me. I will quickly cover what happened in the oil and gas markets, and then we will let you get out of it. We appreciate you joining us here on this Thursday. As always, I am Michael Tanner, joined by Stuart Turley. Where do you want to begin?
Hey, I want to give our buddy JP Warren a shout out. I enjoyed getting to give him a hug last night at the event. That was a huge event. Well done to the whole team putting that together.
It was a great event. We appreciate everybody who came out to support, and it was nice bumping into a couple fans. It's weird when people start recognizing you.
It's weird. It's kind of cool. Hey, Michael, Saudi Aramco plans to join Woodside's Louisiana LNG project. Michael, this is a huge story because if you remember, Secretary Chris Wright said that LNG is going to be a gigantic portion of the U.S. trade balancing. Well, guess what? President Trump is in the Middle East doing some serious trading here, and this is a pretty big story. The collaboration was signed between the U.S. Investment Forum attended by the Saudi Arabian Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman and U.S. President Donald Trump. I love the reception that President Trump got at this reception. It is very cool. Total capital expenditure for the LNG project pipeline and management reserve is 17.5 billion. Woodside is targeting first LNG in 2029. This is a huge win for the Trump administration.
Yeah, it really is. It's also a big win for Turley, who was the previous developer of the Woodside, Louisiana LNG project, which used to be named the Driftwood LNG project until it was purchased by Woodside. And the CEO of Turley dumped his whole pay package back into this project. He, I think, is very pleased right now because that ROI is going to be spectacular.
Unbelievable. And this is exactly what I voted for. This is the kind of growth that is going to come back to the United States hugely, as President Trump would say. Let's go to the next story here. EU sanctions target nearly 200 linked ships. Michael, not only is the leadership in the EU incompetent, they're dumb. They're just absolutely dumb. Okay, so we're going to have two stories here on sanctions. This one, the EU has imposed multiple sanctions since 2014. This is the 17th package unveiled on May 14th, 2025, targeting individuals, entities, and vessels. Michael, guess how much Russia gets hurt by the EU sanctions?
9.
Yeah, the GDP growth is 4.5% GDP growth. That's where Germany's was. Negative 2 years in a row. Okay, who's getting hurt by all this? The EU. You can't buy
this. This is par for the course for what the EU has done. I mean, we all know they were okay with Nord Stream being blown up. whoever blew it up clearly consulted with the EU, or else we wouldn't have done it, considering most of the EU happens to be in NATO, and there's a good chance a NATO country, I'm not saying who, but there's a less than zero chance a NATO country blew it up, unless you believe it's the Ukrainian SEALs, as I believe, but the evidence sometimes does point towards the U.S. So all that goes to say is they're all for hurting themselves from an economic energy security standpoint. Par for the course.
Yeah, they're not seeing the forest for the trees because they cut them down in Scotland so that they can use diesel to power the wind turbines.
Yeah.
Now, let me just point out this, that they've got another 60 individuals with another 100 vessels. Michael, there are 1,400 ships in the dark fleet. Of the 1,400 ships, there's a ballpark around 700 that are Russian. All right, let's go to the next one here. Washington issues further sanctions with aimed at Iran's trade with China. Let's take a look at how second-tier sanctions could actually stop Russian oil. Let's take a look at this for Iranian oil. The Trump administration imposed extensive sanctions on Iran, focusing on its nuclear program, oil exports, financial system, and aiming to pressure Iran into renegotiating the nuclear settlement. This is actually very, very important. When you take a look at the sanctions, they are actually looking at sanctioning China's refineries, Michael. Oops. They take it one step further and they go after Iran's. That's not in this article. But if they get serious and Iran starts doing this, Trump will sanction the Indian refineries. You watch for those two things to happen, Iran's economy will crash.
No, it's really true. And I mean, this is and I like your EMB pub note here that, these are theoretically second tier sanctions, but they're probably going to do the most damage.
Exactly. I mean, you sit back and kind of go, okay, what do? You put a sanction on 60 fat oligarchs that need to get the Ozempic shot? No, it means absolutely nothing.
Ozempic.
Yeah. The fat shot, as President Trump called it. Hey, one of my friends called me and I need a fat shot. So he was paying $1,800 in the United States, and it was $80 in the UK. Boy, the pharmaceutical companies are screwed. But let's go to the next story here. Speaking of screwed, peak coal and energy security dominate the discussion at the Geneva conference. Michael, this was actually a funny story. This is actually about the Geneva dry goods storage and how much they were complaining, or they were basically saying, oh, by the way, the future of coal is the most dominant topic of the crystal ball at this year's Geneva Dry Conference on how little that they're going to be shipping in the future. Hang on. The market is weak, says a quote. Anything you read about the Chinese market suggests there's no pool for coal imports. Hogwash. This is somebody smoking some funny tobacco. Here's why. I put in here the whole background on this. Michael, there's 8,000 megawatts of coal power being done around the world. If you look at that map, you take a look at India and China, and that's a whole lot of coal. Guess what, Michael? There are 437 new coal plants under construction and another 262 permitted around the world. That's a lot of new coal going on. Even though the United States has cut back, rest of the world hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, this goes to show that people will always migrate towards the lowest cost energy if left to their own devices. I sound like a broken record saying that. If you're listened to any of this show for any time period, you've heard me say that. I'm not just playing it on loop. I'm saying it because that's what all of these articles are showing us, that people are going to migrate relative to where they currently are to the cheaper version of what they're already doing. So, I mean, this, and especially now in the United States, as we've seen subsidies for renewables come off, we're seeing people cancel wind farms. I mean, of course, people are moving back to coal.
Oh, absolutely. And let's go to the last story here. CEO of Venture Global to sign multiple 20-year LNG contracts in the upcoming quarters. I really like the way that this article toned out from grok, it's an interesting way that to use grok. I think that it's a pretty cool way to look at taking an earnings call and then have grok analyze, and it gave me some very good information on it. Sable revealed during the Venture Global's first quarter earnings call on Tuesday, we're very active in significant number of negotiations for long-term contracts at this point, mostly all 20-year terms. That's huge. But you
No,
take a look at what I added in here from X's Grok or Grok, or however you want to say it. Is it Grok as in Grok in beer, or Grok as in Grok a caveman? Is it revenue? You look at 2024 and you look at 2025 guidance, and it looks pretty darn good.
no, it really does. We clearly, just showed that people are bullish on LNG, meaning, of course, these earnings reports are going to signal some great news going forward. And I mean, clearly the stock has boomed since this release. So, all the pieces are there. We need to get this CEO on the podcast is what we need to do.
I'm reaching out to him as soon as I get my internet back.
Yeah, we know, who knows when that will be. But all right, guys, let's jump over to finance. Guys, give Stu a little bit of a break. But before we do that, let's quickly pay the bills. As always, thank you for checking us out here on the world's greatest website, www.energynewsbeat.com. Stu and the team do a tremendous job making sure that website stays up to speed. Everything you need to know to be the tip of the spear when it comes to the energy and the oil and gas business. Go ahead and hit that description below for all links to the timestamps, links to the articles. Subscribe to our Substack, theenergynewsbeat.substack.com. We're writing articles that you could only find via our Substack. If you are interested in supporting the show even further, feel free to sign up for a paid subscription. It's one of the best ways to make sure that this show is able to keep coming to you. Shout out to another friend of the show, Reese Energy Consulting. We appreciate their support. Guys, if you are in the oil business, in the upstream or midstream space, and you're not working with Reese Energy Consulting, you're doing yourselves a disservice. If you don't have an oil marketing company fighting for every dollar on your first purchaser and midstream contracts, you need to reach out to Reese Energy Consulting. You can tell them Energy News Beat sent them. If you are working and are not in the midstream space and you have any questions, you're confused on things in the midstream space, call Reese Energy Consulting. They know everything about what's going on, LNG facilities. Clearly, LNG has been a theme of this podcast now for the last couple of weeks. So highly recommend you call them. That's www.reeseenergyconsulting.com. And finally, guys, it's never too early to start optimizing your 2025 portfolio. If you are interested in becoming Billy Bob Thornton from Landman and adding a little bit of oil and gas to your investment portfolio, go to investinoil.energynewsbeat.com. We've put together a great ebook that'll show people exactly the best way to invest via oil and gas. We will get you all that information. We love a nice dividend. We love a great tax break. We love a little bit portfolio diversification. But Stu, we also love being Billy Bob Thornton from Landman. You at that networking event were last night running around telling people, I own wells. So it's great. And that's, again, investinoil.energynewsbeat.com. Let's just quickly jump over and cover what happened in the oil and gas space today. But let's check out some of our top headline tickers. S&P 500 up 0.1 of a percentage point. NASDAQ up 0.5 percentage points. 2 and 10-year yields 1.3 and 1.5. Dollar index up 0.1 of a point. Bitcoin basically flat, $103,500. Crude oil was up, then down, a little bit choppy, and currently trading basically at $63 as we record this, about $3.45 on the 14th. Brent oil $65.79, and natural gas took an absolute pounding, down 5 percentage points, down to $3.46. Two things we saw today was mainly OPEC trimming 2025 non-OPEC oil supply growth forecast, which is actually a decent supply balance. We did last night see the API show crude oil stocks rose by 4.3 million. That's their guesstimate of what we can throw up on the screen was the API crude, or the EIA crude oil inventory report at 3.5 million barrels. So that was really kind of the lagging on the markets. I don't think people were necessarily expecting that. Quote from UBS analyst Giovanni Stovano, who we love, definitely the crude build and the API numbers was not of help. And so it's very interesting there. I think there's a lot going on in the market here, but other than winding down on a little bit of earnings, there wasn't much on the market, Stu. We had a great busy week, and man, I'm tired. I'll tell you that much.
You bet. Michael Sable is the CEO I'm going to reach out to.
Yes, absolutely. Who's running on the podcast tomorrow?
No. I have to see which one the staff has got done. I'm recording another one here if my internet holds solid, but I will double check.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll need to. It's almost like you need Starlink. Oh wait, you've got it.
I just switched to Starlink while you were bumbling.
Keyword bumbling, folks, bumbling. So, well, we appreciate, again, everybody sticking with us this week. It's been a long week. We will be back in the chair on Monday, but you can hear one of our long form podcasts, which will drop on Friday. You can also hear our weekly recap, which drops on Saturday. And then we will take Sunday off and be back in the chair on Monday, guys. So we're going to go ahead and let you get out of here. Thanks for sticking with us all week. For Stuart, Turley, I'm Michael Tanner. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.